My nephew caught me changing, and the moment that followed left both of us in stunned silence. The towel slipped from my hand, pooling at my feet like a confession I couldn't take back. And there he was, Vincent, frozen in the doorway of my cramped bathroom, his eyes wide, not with shock at my nakedness, but at the faded tattoo snaking across my ribs, a thorny rose, inked in a rush of youthful rebellion 20 years ago for a man who'd long since vanished from my life. "Uncle Ethan," he whispered, his voice cracking like dry autumn leaves underfoot. "That's the same one Dad has hidden under his shirt, the one he swore was from his Army days." In that instant, the floor seemed to tilt, pulling us both toward a family secret buried deeper than any grave. One that would unravel everything I thought I knew about blood, betrayal, and the quiet ache of loving in the shadows. I slammed the door shut behind Vincent that first night he arrived in Elmwood. The kind of forgotten speck on the Iowa map where cornfields stretch like endless regrets, and the biggest scandal is the annual fair's rigged pie contest. It was late August, the air thick with the promise of harvest and the faint rot of summer dying. And I'd driven the 2 hours from Des Moines to pick him up at the Greyhound station because his dad, my older brother, Tom, had called in a panic. He's spiraling. Ethan lost his job at that hipster coffee shop in Chicago, dumped by that girl he was seeing. Just get him out of the city. Straighten him out. Tom's voice had that edge, the one honed from years of coaching high school football and preaching bootstraps from the pulpit of his Baptist church. I didn't argue. Family's what you do, even when it feels like swallowing glass. Vincent tumbled out of the bus with a duffel bag slung over one shoulder and a backpack that looked like it had been through a war zone. At 22, he was all limbs and sharp angles. His dark hair tousled like he just rolled out of a mosh pit, wearing a faded Black Sabbath tee that screamed outsider in a town where flannel was king. He hugged me awkwardly, his frame lean but solid from whatever urban escapades he'd been chasing. "Thanks for this, Uncle," he muttered, using the nickname from when he was a kid trailing after me during summer barbecues. "I owe you." We didn't talk much on the drive back. The radio hummed low with classic rock, Springsteen wailing about born-to-run dreams that never quite made it out of the heartland, and I stole glances at him, wondering how the boy who'd once built forts in my backyard had turned into this haunted version of himself. Elmwood hadn't changed. Same cracked sidewalks. Same neon-lit diner where the coffee tasted like regret. Same whispers about who was sleeping with whom behind closed doors. I come back here 5 years ago after Sarah, my beard of a wife for a decade, passed from cancer, leaving me with a hollow house and a teaching gig at the local high school. History. Irony of ironies. Teaching kids about revolutions while my own life was a stalled coup against a closet I'd built brick by brick. That first week blurred into a rhythm of forced normalcy. I'd wake at dawn, brew coffee strong enough to strip paint, and find Vincent already up, staring out the kitchen window at the fields like they held answers. He'd enrolled in community college online, something vague about graphic design, but mostly he moped, scrolling his phone with a ferocity that made his knuckles white. I tried jokes, shared stories of my own fuck-ups in my 20s, but he'd just nod, his green eyes, Tom's eyes, distant as the horizon. Then came Randy. It was a Saturday, the kind where the sun beats down like God's own hammer, and I dragged Vincent to the county fair because isolation breeds monsters. The air smelled of fried dough and livestock shit, carnival lights flickering like false promises against the dusk. We wandered the midway, Vincent half-heartedly tossing rings at bottles while I nursed a lukewarm beer, when he lit up for the first time. "Randy," he yelled, waving down a guy weaving through the crowd like he owned it. Randy Hargrove, 23, Elmwood born and raised, but with the restless energy of someone who'd tasted city lights and spat them back. He was Vincent's old high school buddy, the one who'd bolted for art school in Minneapolis only to wash back home when the grants dried up. Tall, with sun-bleached hair that fell in waves over a jawline sharp enough to cut glass, and arms inked with swirling murals that made my tattoo look like a child's doodle. He clapped Vincent on the back, then turned those blue eyes on me, sizing me up with a grin that hit like a gut punch. You must be the famous Uncle Ethan. Vince here's been singing your praises, says you're the only one who gets his artistic bullshit, whatever that means. Vincent flushed, mumbling something about exaggeration, but I laughed it off, shaking Randy's hand firm, callous from whatever odd jobs kept him afloat. We fell into easy talk, the fair's rigged games, the latest town gossip about Old Man Jenkins running off with a librarian. Randy had a way of leaning in, like your words were the only ones worth hearing, and by the time the fireworks cracked open the sky, I felt seen in a way that scared me shitless. That night, back home, Vincent crashed early, but I lay awake, the echo of Randy's laugh looping in my head like a bad habit. It had been years since I'd let myself feel that pull, the magnetic north of wanting someone who might want you back. Sarah had known. In the end, we'd built our marriage on mutual mercy, her bisexuality a bridge over my secrets. But after her, I'd locked it all down. No apps, no bars, just the quiet companionship of lesson plans and Tom Waits records. Randy cracked that open without even trying. The next morning, Vincent cornered me in the kitchen, his face stormy. You like him, don't you? Randy, it wasn't a question. I froze, mug halfway to my lips, the coffee scalding my tongue. He's a good kid, I said carefully, setting it down. Reminds me of you at that age, full of fire. Nowhere to aim it. Vincent's laugh was bitter, scraping like sandpaper. Yeah, well, fire burns. Uncle E. Just. Be careful. Small towns eat people like us alive. He grabbed his keys and stormed out, tires spitting gravel as he peeled away. People like us. The words hung there, heavy as humidity, and I wonder what ghost he was running from. Randy texted me that afternoon. Vincent must have slipped him my number, inviting us to a bonfire at the old quarry outside town. Bring beers. Vince will sulk if we don't drag him. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, before typing back a yes. What harm in it? Friends. Harmless. The quarry was a scar in the earth, limestone walls glowing under the harvest moon, the air crisp with wood smoke and the faint tang of lake water. A dozen locals ringed the fire, kids from my classes, a few roughnecks nursing cans, but Randy held court, strumming a beat-up guitar, his voice rough and true on covers of Dylan and Cash. Vincent sat apart, nursing a beer, his eyes flicking between us like he was watching a fuse burn down. Later, when the crowd thinned, Randy and I ended up on a log by the water's edge, the fire's glow painting us in oranges and shadows. He passed me a joint, weed, not the hard stuff, and we talked real for the first time. About dreams deferred, his sketches piling up in drawers, my unpublished novel gathering dust on a shelf. You ever feel like you're living someone else's life? He asked, exhaling smoke that curled like questions. All the time, I admitted, the words slipping out before I could cage them. Our knees brushed, accidental at first, then not, and the air thickened with possibility. His hand found mine in the dark. Tentative, and I didn't pull away. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to that touch, warm, electric, a lifeline tossed into the void. Then Vincent's voice shattered it. What the fuck? Ethan, he loomed over us, face twisted in betrayal, the empty beer can crumpling in his fist. Before I could speak, he lunged, shoving Randy hard enough to send him sprawling. You think you can just him? My uncle. The words tumbled out, raw and jagged, in the firelight. I saw it, not anger at me, but at himself, at the mirror Vincent had been avoiding his whole life. He bolted into the night, and I chased, calling his name until my throat burned. I found him by the water, heaving sobs that echoed off the rocks. Vincent, talk to me. What's going on? He whirled, eyes wild. You don't get it. That tattoo, Dad's not from the army. It's from him. The man he loved before Mom. Before he decided to be straight and ruin everything. The confession hit like a freight train. Tom, the pillar of righteousness, hiding a past that mirrored my own buried truths. Vincent wiped his face, voice breaking. I found the letters last year, in the attic. He threw it all away to fit in, but it poisoned us. Mom left because she knew. And me, I'm just like him. Like you. I came here to escape, but seeing you with Randy, it's like watching my own cowardice play out. I pulled him into a hug, fierce and unyielding. The kind that says blood isn't just DNA, it's the scars we share. You're not him, I whispered. And neither am I anymore. But secrets have teeth, and Tom's shadow loomed larger than we knew. The days after the bonfire settled into a fragile truce, like walking on eggshells after a storm. Vincent threw himself into his online classes, sketching late into the night, dark, swirling pieces that bled emotion onto the page. I'd catch him staring at his phone, thumbing through old photos of Chicago. The city lights a siren call he couldn't quite silence. Randy texted me apologies, then invitations to coffee in Des Moines. Neutral ground where we could talk without the quarry's ghosts. I went, twice, each time the pull stronger, his laugh cutting through the diner's chatter, the way his fingers traced patterns on the Formica table, mirroring the tattoos on his skin. You're good for him. You know, Randy said over pie one afternoon, his boot nudging mine under the table, not accidental. Vince, he's been lost since his folks split. Tom's a hard ass, always has been. Pushes that man-up bullshit like it's gospel. I nodded, fork scraping the plate, the words sticking in my throat. Good for him. If only Randy knew how tangled it all was, how Vincent's revelation had cracked open my own vault of regrets. That night, after dropping Randy at his truck, I drove home with the windows down, the wind whipping through like absolution. But absolution's a lie in Elmwood. Sins have long memories. Tom called the next evening, his voice tinny over the line. How's my boy holding up? You turning him into a farmhand yet? Laughter. Forced. The kind that masks worry. I hedged, mentioning the sketches, the quiet progress. But he cut me off. Listen, Ethan, there's something you need to know. About Vincent. He's seeing someone. Girl from back home. Keep an eye. Don't let him screw it up like I did with his mom. The lie landed like a slap. Vincent. Seeing a girl? After his confession by the water? I hung up, stomach churning, and found Vincent in the living room. Laptop open to a blank canvas. Your dad called, I said, casual as I could manage. Proud of you. He snorted, not looking up. Yeah. Well, tell him to save it. I'm not his mini-me. We let it drop, but the seed festered. The following weekend, Randy invited us to his place, a converted barn on the edge of town, walls lined with canvases that screamed talent starved for air. Open studio night, he called it, but it was just us three, beers chilling in a cooler, a playlist of indie folk droning low. Vincent arrived late. Eyes shadowed, claiming a headache, but he perked up when Randy pulled out the guitar again, the notes weaving us together like a spell. As the night deepened, Vincent excused himself to the porch, and Randy sidled closer, his shoulder warm against mine. He's jealous, he murmured, breath tickling my ear. Of this. Us. His hand slipped into mine, and I let it, the thrill chasing away the chill. We kissed then, soft, exploratory, tasting of hops and hesitation, right there on the sagging couch, the world outside fading to irrelevance. The door creaked, and Vincent stood there, face ashen. Not anger this time, but something worse, defeat. He didn't yell. He just turned and walked out, the screen door banging like a gavel. Randy pulled back, cursing under his breath. Shit. I should have waited. I found Vincent at the quarry again, alone this time, skipping stones across the moonlit water. It's not what you think, I started, but he laughed. Hollow. It is, though, exactly what I think. You're brave, Uncle E, or stupid. Pick one. He hurled a rock farther, the plunk echoing. Randy's not out. You know. Dates girls for show, cheerleader types to keep the whispers down. But with you, it's real. And it terrifies him, like it does me. We sat in silence then, the kind that binds more than words. And he told me the rest. The girl Tom mentioned? A cover. A desperate bid to please his father after the breakup with his boyfriend in Chicago, a sculptor named Alex. Coincidence that twisted like a knife. Dad found out. Disowned me over the phone. That's why I ran. Thought here, with you, I could. I don't know. Breathe. My heart cracked wide. Tom, our Tom, wielding faith like a weapon. I'd suspected his hypocrisies, the late nights at prayer meetings, the tattoo he'd always hidden. But this? Poison in the vein. We'll fix it, I said, fierce. Together, but fixing demands truth. And truth has a price. Randy and I became a secret shorthand, stolen hours in Des Moines motels, walks in state parks where no one knew our names. He opened up in fragments his own closet, built from a childhood of farm boy expectations and a mother who'd drunk herself silent after his dad bailed. Art's my out, he said once, sketching my profile by lamplight, charcoal smudging his fingers. But you're the first thing that feels like home. I fell hard, the kind of love that rewires your soul, makes the ordinary sacred. Mornings with Vincent turned lighter too. We'd cook breakfast, burnt pancakes, and bad coffee, trading stories of Tom's tyrannies, bonding over the absurdity of survival. He even brought home a canvas, a stormy seascape that captured the quarry's rage, and hung it in the hall like a declaration. Then the letter came. It was waiting in the mailbox one crisp October morning, Tom's handwriting slashing the envelope like an accusation. Addressed to Vincent, but he'd left it on the kitchen table, unopened, for me to find. Read it if you want, he'd said, voice flat. Might as well. I shouldn't have. But curiosity's a thief. Ethan, if you're reading this, you've poisoned him against me. I know what you are, what you've always been. That weakness you hide. I see it in Vince now, thanks to you. Send him back, or I'll come get him myself. And God help you if you've dragged him into your filth. Tom, the words blurred, rage boiling up like bile. Filth. Our love, reduced to that. I crumpled it, hands shaking, and when Vincent got home from a shift at the diners, I showed him. His face crumpled, then hardened. He knows about the tattoo. About everything. From the letters. He's always known. The betrayal sank deep. A root system choking us. Tom, who'd buried his own rose only to uproot everyone else's. That night, Vincent packed a bag. I'm going to Chicago. Face Alex. Face myself. Can't hide here anymore. Don't, I pleaded. We'll stand together. He hugged me. Fierce. You taught me that, Uncle E. But this is my fight now. He left at dawn, the taillights fading like a bruise. Randy came over that evening, sensing the void. We sat on the porch, his head on my shoulder, the silence companionable until he spoke. Vince called. Said Tom's coming. To save him. The storm broke then, not rain, but reckoning. Tom arrived 2 days later, truck rumbling up the drive like Judgment Day. He stormed in without knocking, face thunderous, the tattoo peeking from his unbuttoned collar like a taunt. Where's my son? Gone, I said, blocking the hall. By choice. You did this. He jabbed a finger, veins bulging. Turned him. Like you turned yourself. The dam burst. I laughed, bitter and free. Turned? Tom, that rose on your skin? It's not army ink. It's love. The kind you ran from, married to hide, and now you're poisoning your own blood to match. He paled, then flushed crimson. Lies. You're the devil's whisper. Ethan. Always were. We grappled then, not fists, but words. Years of unspoken wars spilling out. His youth in the city, the man named Paul who'd inked that rose during stolen weekends before Tom fled back to Elmwood. To normalcy, the marriage to Vincent's mom. A cage of convenience that birthed resentment. I chose right, he snarled. For family. For God. And for Vincent. I shot back. You disown him for the same sin you committed? Hypocrite. He swung wild, grazing my jaw, and I tasted blood, metallic as truth. Randy burst in then, having driven up unannounced, pulling Tom off with a wrestler's grip. Enough. You're his brother, not his jailer. Tom sagged, the fight draining like air from a punctured tire. I just wanted better for him. Better's not a lie, Randy said, voice steady. It's owning your scars. He left broken, tail lights swallowed by dusk. A voicemail later apologizing in fragments. Call me when you're ready. Love you both. But the real fracture came later. Winter clamped down on Elmwood like a vice. Snow blanketing the fields in deceptive peace. The kind that hides landmines. Vincent's texts from Chicago were sporadic, settled in. Alex says hi dot, laced with that tentative hope you feel after a fresh start. I clung to them, to Randy's steady presence, mornings tangled in sheets. His sketches now featuring us, subtle, intertwined lines that spoke what words couldn't. This is real, he'd murmur against my neck. And I believe him, because in the heartland, belief's all you've got. But doubt's a weed, thriving in cracks. It started with a call from an old colleague in Des Moines. Casual gossip over coffee I'd never had. Heard Randy's ex is back in town. That artist chick from the cities. Stirring shit up. I brushed it off. Exes are exes, but the seed took root. Then the whispers hit Elmwood proper. At the grocery, Mrs. Harlan averted her eyes. At school, a parent meeting ended abrupt with personal matters. Randy laughed it away when I asked. Small town bullshit. Ignore it, but ignoring's harder when Vincent calls. Voice edged with urgency. Uncle E. Dad's been emailing. Says you're involved with Randy, and that it's dangerous. What the hell? I told him the truth, or what I thought was the love, the fight, Tom's retreat. We're good, I assured. Stronger, his silence stretched. Just watch him. Randy's got layers. We all do. The high school winter formal loomed. A saccharine ritual of punch bowls and awkward dances. And Randy volunteered to DJ. Extra cash. He said, I went as chaperone. The gym decked in twinkling lights that mocked the gloom outside. Kids swirled in clusters. Hormones and hairspray thick in the air. And I watched from the bleachers, nursing a soda, until Randy caught my eye from a booth. He winked, slipping into a slow song, something by the National, all brooding ache, and the floor cleared for couples. He found me later, during a break, pulling me into the shadowed hallway. "Dance with me," he said, half joking, but his hand was warm on my wrist. We swayed there, improper as hell, his chin on my shoulder, the bass thumping like a shared pulse. "Love you," he whispered, and the world tilted soft. That's when I saw her, Lena, the ex, leaning against the gym door, arms crossed, eyes like daggers. Tall, with cropped red hair and a leather jacket that screamed city escapee. She didn't approach, just watched, lips curled in something between pity and possession. The fallout hit fast. That night, Randy's phone buzzed relentless. He silenced it. But I saw the name, Lena. "Old drama," he muttered, rolling over. But sleep evaded me. The hallway dance souring into suspicion. Morning brought confrontation. She was at his barn when I arrived unannounced, coffee in hand as peace offering turned weapon. They were laughing, easy, intimate, over sketches spread on the table, her hand on his arm like ownership. "Ethan," Randy said, startled, wiping ink from his fingers. "Didn't expect you." Lena smirked. "The uncle." Charming. The pieces clicked, ugly and inevitable. "What's this?" I demanded, gesturing between them. "Collaborating," Randy said. Too quick. "On a project," but her eyes said different. "Tell him, Rand, or I will." He deflated, rubbing his neck. "It's nothing. She's helping with my portfolio for a gallery show in Minneapolis. And the rest." Lena pressed, voice silk over steel. "Then nothing that has you ghosting me for months?" Vincent's warning echoed, layers. The truth spilled then, jagged as broken glass. Randy and Lena engaged once. Briefly, a shield against rumors after a drunken hookup at art school got photographed. It was fake, he insisted. For show. But she wanted real now. Came back to convince me. And me. I asked, voice small. "Collateral?" His face crumpled. "No. God, no. You're everything." Lena laughed. Sharp. Sweet. But he's always been the chameleon. "Ethan. Fits what the room needs. Right now. That's you." Last month, me. She left with a flourish. Door slamming like punctuation. And Randy reached for me. I stepped back. "How many shields?" "Randy? How many lies to stay safe?" "It's not," he started, but I was already gone. Truck roaring down the snow-slick road. Heart a blizzard inside. Vincent answered on the first ring. "I tried to warn you. You knew. Accusation. Raw. Not all. Just. Patterns. He's my friend, but he's scared. Like us." I hung up. The betrayal of fresh wound atop Tom's old one. Days blurred. School a haze of lectures on the Civil War. Parallels to my own, fractured union hitting too close. Randy's texts piled up, please. Talked up, but I deleted them, building walls higher than before. Then the accident. It was a Tuesday, black ice on Highway 20, the kind that turns routine commutes to roulette. Tom's truck totaled against a guardrail. Him airlifted to Iowa City with a shattered leg and internal bleeding. Vincent called from the hospital, voice fracturing. "He's asking for you." Both of us. I drove through the night. Randy's unanswered plea echoing in the dash radio static. The ICU was sterile hell. Beeps and bleach. Tom pale under tubes like a man unmade. Vincent sat vigil, hand at his father's. The trio, we'd never been knitting fragile. He told me everything. Vincent whispered when I arrived, eyes red-rimmed. About Paul. About choosing wrong. Wants forgiveness. Tom stirred, rasping my name. "Ethan. Sorry. For the letter. For." Me. Words failed. I gripped his hand. The rose tattoo stark against hospital white. Family, I said simply. We rewrite the endings. Randy appeared at dawn, coffee-stained and hollow-eyed, having followed my taillights from afar. Couldn't stay away. The room held us all then, broken, mending, Tom's eyes flickering understanding. Vincent's not a bridge. But forgiveness isn't erasure, it's excavation. As spring thawed the fields, truths surfaced like crocuses. Randy confessed the full weight, not just Lena, but a pattern of half-lives. Running from commitment's terror after his mom's suicide, the farm's collapse. You make me want to stop, he said, on his knees in my kitchen, voice wrecked. Build something true. I wanted to believe, God. I did, but trust some muscle, torn and trembling. Vincent, home for the summer, mediated with quiet wisdom. We all hide. Uncle E. Question is, can you love the mess? The climax came unbidden. On the quarry's edge at solstice. Full moon silvering the water. We gather me, Randy, Vincent, even Tom, crutches and all. A pilgrimage to bury the past. Words poured. Tom's regret for the life unlived. Vincent's for the years silenced. Randy's for the masks. I spoke last. Voice steady. Love isn't safe. It's the risk. The show. Randy stepped forward. Ring in hand, not diamond, but a simple band etched with thorns. Marry me? Not for show. For us. Tears stung, I nodded, pulling him close. Vincent whooping, Tom clapping awkward on his cast. The kiss was fire and forgiveness. The moon our witness. The life twists. Months later, as wedding plans bloomed, small, heartfelt, in the barn, Lena returned. Not with venom, but vulnerability. Pregnant. Randy's, from a lapse before us. I didn't know, she said, hand on her belly. But it's his choice. The decision gutted us. Randy chose me, us, but the child, a tether to what-ifs. We navigated it raw, co-parenting packs, therapy sessions in Des Moines, Vincent stepping up as the uncle he'd never had. Tom softened, reading baby books with a zeal that redeemed. It's not fairy tale, it's human flawed. Fierce. We stand now on that pier by the lake. Randy's head on my shoulder at sunset. Vincent sketching nearby. Tom fishing with the boy on his knee. The light gilds us gold. Scars and all. A testament. Love wins not by perfection, but persistence. In the end, the silence isn't stunned, it's sacred. The wedding was a quiet rebellion against Elmwood's prying eyes, held in Randy's barn under strings of Edison bulbs. The air scented with hay and wildflowers we'd foraged from the fields. No tuxes, just jeans and button-downs, the kind that feel like armor shed. Vincent officiated, his voice steady as he read vows we'd written in fevered nights, promises of thorns and roses, of holding the mess without flinching. Tom sat front row, leg healed but limp lingering, his presence a hard-won grace. Lena stood witness, belly rounding under a loose dress, her hand occasionally drifting to the life, tying us all in uneasy alliance. I now pronounce you husbands, Vincent said, grinning through mist, and a small crowd, handful of open-minded locals, a few city friends, erupted in cheers that rattled the rafters. Randy's kiss was salt and sweet, sealing not just us, but the fractures we'd mended. Later, as cake crumbled and beers clinked, Tom pulled me aside, his grip firm on my arm. Proud of you, little brother, for choosing truth over my shadows. The words landed soft, a benediction I'd never sought. We hugged awkward, Midwestern, and for the first time, I saw him whole, the boy with the rose, the man who'd stumbled, the father learning late. Redemption's not lightning. It's the slow thaw. Baby arrived in July. A girl they named Rose. Lena's nod to the ink that started all. Randy balanced dad duties with husband ones. Midnight feedings bleeding into dawn walks where we'd push the stroller through dew-kissed grass. Talking futures over thermoses of coffee. Scared shitless, he'd admit. Eyes on the horizon. But with you, I can. Vincent thrived in Chicago. Gallery shows for his seascapes, earning nods from critics who called his work hauntingly authentic. He visited monthly. The uncle role suiting him like a second skin, bouncing Rose on his knee while regaling her with tales of uncles who loved fiercely. Your dads, he'd say, they're the real artists, painting a life from ruins. Elmwood shifted subtle. Whispers faded to acceptance. My classroom a haven where I wove history's outcasts into lessons. Stonewall beside the Boston Tea Party. Proving revolutions start quiet. Tom joined a support group in Des Moines, coming out in fits and starts. His church fracturing, but a new one rising from the splinters. Paul would have liked this, he told me once, over pie at the diner. The man who inked us both. Grief for Paul lingered. A quiet companion, but no longer choked. Sarah visited in dreams, smiling approval. Her bisexuality a bridge to the fluidity I'd embraced. Life layered on. Rose's first steps in the kitchen. Vincent's engagement to Alex announced over FaceTime. Randy's mural commission for the town hall. A swirl of figures. Intertwined. Thorns blooming roses. Yet peace demands vigilance. Doubts crept in anniversaries. Anniversaries marking not just joy, but the what-ifs. What if Lena pushed for more? What if Tom's old fire reignited? What if Randy's chameleon resurfaced? We'd argue. Sharp words over unpaid bills or bedtime squabbles, but always circle back. Hands finding hands. Remembering the quarry's lesson. Love's the fight worth losing sleep over. One autumn eve, as leaves turned crimson, we piled into the truck for the pier, tradition now. Sunset stakeouts with coolers and blankets. Rose toddled at the water's edge. Vincent hoisting her high. Tom casting lines with patient arcs. Randy and I sat close. His sketch pad open to a half-formed us. Lines soft as breath. Regrets? I asked. Head on his shoulder. The gold light, our halo. He kissed my temple. None. You. Only that it took so long. The sun dipped, painting a lake fire, and in that glow, vulnerable, vast, I felt it, not ending, but continuum. The stunned silence of that bathroom doorframe had birthed this, betrayals unearthed, misunderstandings bridged, decisions carved from bone. We'd raged, empathized, risen human from the ashes. Family's not blood alone. It's the stories we etch, thorny and true. And in America's heartland, where winds whisper secrets through the corn, we choose to bloom anyway.